What would you do if you discovered the man you have built a family with had hijacked your children's future? Deposit by deposit, if the woman you regarded as sister, your spiritual counterpart, was secretly profiting at your expense while you saw your own bank account dwindle, Christine didn't just discover the truth. She printed it, tabled it, and strode into court to put it all to flames. No lights, no producers, no TLC crew, just the crushing quiet of a Flagstaff courtroom and the distant thrum of air conditioning sounding like a beating clock in Christine's rib cage. She sat at the plaintiff's table, back straight, fingers clenched tightly around the spine of the bulk blue binder that had, until today, been her secret in private. Across from her sat Kody, arms folded, gaze shying away from hers, as if to meet her eyes would bring the whole facade crashing down around him that he'd lived for years. Robyn, always lurking just behind him, leaned in close with hushed words he didn't answer. The judge appeared slowly, robe flowing, spectacles sitting firmly in place. "Mrs. Brown," he declared without introduction, "are you ready to submit your first batch of financial records?" Christine's throat constricted, but didn't shut. She never looked at the judge. She never even looked at Robyn. Her gaze was pinned on Kody. "I am," she answered. "This is from the year all the pieces began to fall away." She opened the binder, revealing the first tab covered in red ink, the year of the missing Christmas. The courtroom didn't gasp, but it cinched. Christine turned the page slowly, and on it was a copy of one of the family emails Kody sent in November of that year. He wrote to all the wives, telling them the family account was low. There would be no Christmas presents if they did not skip therapy and cut back on family groceries for the month. Christine read it in a calm voice. She then pushed ahead a second page. A bank statement 3 days after this email depicting $1 payment to a Flagstaff contractor listed. Interior design, Robyn home renovation. A quiet whisper rippled through the courtroom like a breeze through leaves. Christine didn't relent. That is where the joint money came from. The money all of us put in, the one he claimed was vacant. Kody wrote something on a yellow pad, jaw clenched, but not speaking. Robyn stared at the floor, twisting her wedding band. The judge pushed back his glasses and queried, "Were any of the other wives apprised of this exchange?" Christine shook her head. "Number," and it was just the tip of the iceberg. She went to the next tab, the diversion, and as the courtroom prepared, the judge nodded for her to continue, unwittingly entering the first strata of a 7-year web of deceptions, stealthily woven as Christine smiled on national television. Something Kody didn't realize was that Christine observed, waited, and tracked every transaction. Revenge was not on her mind. Revelation was, and the binder had hardly begun. Christine did not blink. She turned over the next tab, inscribed in gold pen, not for flair, but for irony. Since was when Kody persuaded them all that the family business had to become smarter. Christine rose slowly, binder clutched in hand, her voice firm but tinged with the sort of pain only betrayal can impart. This was the year Kody showed us a new LLC. She started looking over at the judge. He called it a protective measure, said it was how we'd streamline payments from TLC, avoid overtaxation, and build long-term equity. She laid the document on the table, a signed operating agreement for an LLC named Brown Family Holdings, but there were only 2 names on it. Not Meri, not Janelle, not Christine, just Kody Brown and Robyn Sullivan Brown. Christine inhaled. "We weren't told it was a new account." He explained that it was a shell company to file taxes for. She flipped to the next page, a TLC deposit log, indicating more than $1 deposited into the new LLC between January and October that year. None of us had access, she told us. But he told us we were broke. A tiny whisper slipped out from Janelle in the back of the room. Meri's eyes flashed. Kody appeared rigid, a smile twitching at the corners of his mouth. Not happiness, but panic masquerading as condescension. Then why did you continue competing, Mrs. Brown? The judge demanded. Christine's gaze did not falter, because I believed him. And because he explained to us that Robyn was doing the money paperwork because she was the sole legal wife. Robyn finally raised her eyes, mouth opening as though to answer, but no sound emerged. Christine pulled out a third sheet from the binder. This, she said, is the internal ledger I wasn't allowed to have. I acquired it when my daughter discovered an antiquated password written in a drawer. She laid it on the table, a printout from the computer of the LLC's payment dispersal. Christine, Janelle, and Meri had collectively drawn $. That year, Robyn got $, Kody had withdrawn $, tax-free. He said he was holding it for future investments. Christine whispered, but I checked the wire transfers. Robyn purchased a new SUV cash. The judge furrowed a brow, looked at Robyn, seated now ghostly white, and said, did any of the other wives approve that? Christine answered in silence, a silence more potent than any scream, because everybody in the room already knew the answer. And as she flipped over the next tab labeled Loyalty Costs, the courtroom did not merely clench, it prepared to be hit. Because this was no longer about family, this was about the appearance of family leveraged as cash. And Christine was no longer laying down loyalty. She was cashing in on reality. Christine hesitated over the next tab, taking slow breaths, as if about to open an unlocked door she had once knocked on softly. The title was Loyalty Costs. Kody started his campaign in toward what he referred to as financial unity. What he actually meant, according to Christine, was control. Kody instructed us that year that we needed to reorganize our emotional support plans. No more one-on-one therapy. It was splitting us up emotionally, he told her. We had to share a therapist. Her voice didn't quiver, but whatever held up her back did for a fraction of a second. He said it was because of the health of the family. But 2 weeks later, Robyn's boy received a personal music tutor out of the family funds. She pushed the page across. A check signed by Kody Brown marked Arts Enrichment Fee RS. I didn't even realize the account that this check was drawn on. I discovered it accidentally. He'd used a different routing number. The judge leaned forward. So you are telling me the defendant maintained several undisclosed family accounts? At least 4, said Christine, snapping open another document. He kept each of us on a different banking level. Some of us had debit cards. Robyn had full access. The courtroom didn't gasp. It froze. Even Robyn, previously unreadable, looked like something had knocked the air from her lungs. But here's where it broke me, Christine continued. Kody told us we'd have to reduce medical coverage. He told Jezebel that her scoliosis surgery would have to wait because our out-of-pocket expenses were too great. Her hands trembled as she uncovered the following page. A savings account statement from the same week indicating $1 transfer titled Emergency Business Reserve. Robyn co-owned that account. He lied to my face, Christine said, quietly, calmly. Not loud, not mad, just hurt. He said, the surgery would ruin us, but he was accumulating a reserve fund in Robyn's name all along. Kody changed positions, but still didn't say anything. The judge questioned, did Robyn know about this account? Robyn's mouth opened, then closed. Christine didn't hesitate. It is okay that she didn't, because I do. And so does the IRS auditor I hired. Another piece of paper came out, stamped and authenticated, revealing the account's main deposits, tracing back to joint Brown family earnings. Each time we sought assistance, Christine explained. He told us we were costly, but that money wasn't lost. It was moved. She turned one final page, a yellow sticky note, ripped and worn in Kody's writing. Individual costs equals individual loyalty. Unify or lose access. The courtroom stirred, not with noise, but with presence. The judge shifted in his seat. Janelle leaned forward in her chair. Meri crossed her arms, and Robyn's face started to crumble. Christine wasn't done yet. She flipped the next tab, marked in stark red marker, the disappearance. And without having to say a word, the message was clear. Money didn't disappear. It was concealed. And here now, Christine was about to follow each mislaid dollar back to the hands that gripped it so hard as they called her a burden. The page Christine turned to next wasn't printed from a spreadsheet or an accountant's report. It was scribbled, a record she kept hidden. The tab said, the disappearance, and when her fingers followed the border of the page, the courtroom fell silent once more, as if it understood what was to come wouldn't merely be figures. It would be memory in, Christine stated. Our household income had hit its all-time high since the show started. TLC had just picked us up for 3 more seasons, and Kody told us that we needed to scale down, curb it back. She stopped. He told me that the funds were going to settle debt, she said. She waved a page in front of her that detailed periodic deposits by TLC ranging from dollar to dollar, comma, labeled season revenue, Faye Family Trust. The thing is, though, she went on, only 2 of those deposits appear in the account that I had access to. The others didn't materialize, so I just started writing it down. Each time he uttered, "We can't afford this," I documented it. Each time Robyn came with new furniture, a new security system, or another visit to Arizona for what he referred to as property scouting, I documented that as well. She turned over the next page. This is for $1 wire transfer to a real estate agent in Sedona. The house, she disclosed, was bought under a recently created LLC named Desert Blue Legacy in Robyn Brown's name. And I discovered this. Christine held up a scanned title deed. That LLC has a 2-story vacation home paid in cash. 3 weeks since he informed us that we were too poor to renew our children's dental insurance. Kody's expression didn't budge. He was looking straight ahead like a person attempting not to blink at a fire he had himself started. The judge pushed his glasses up his nose. Were you ever informed of this LLC? Christine shook her head. We weren't informed about the house either. Janelle let out a whistling breath from the back. Meri leaned in to whisper something in her lawyer's ear. But here is what made me realize this wasn't just financial manipulation. Christine spoke softly. It was emotional too. She pulled out a birthday card from the binder. One of Kody's cards to her Inside, he said I was strong, that he admired my sacrifice, that someday I'd look back and know that all of this would be worthwhile. Her voice quavered. But then on the back of the card, there was a sticky note stuck there by accident. It was a list. Transfer title by Monday. Don't say anything about Desert Blue Renew, Robyn's automobile insurance. A stunned quiet fell so deep. Even the court reporter ceased typing. That is when I knew. Christine said, voice firm. This wasn't about making a future. It was about making a future that was only about her. The judge did not interrupt. No one interrupted. The force of 7 years had only just started to press down on the surface. Christine flipped the next page, and this one hurt more than any others. Headlined in bold black capital letters, the TLC payout lie. And with that, the whole courtroom collectively took a deep breath, because the network money wasn't lost. It was diverted, and Christine had the book to back it up. The binder creaked softly as Christine opened the next tab. The TLC payout lie. The courtroom had already been stunned by the hidden LLCs, by the missing money and the real estate cover-up. But this section, this was the punch in the gut, because up until this point, everything Christine had uncovered indicated secrecy. But this was lying every season. She began, voice low and steady. YLC would wire payments to the Brown family for filming. Kody always said it came in lump sums quarterly, and that the payments were getting smaller because the show's ratings were slipping. She glanced up, her eyes settling on Kody, who had stopped fidgeting, his stillness now a kind of confession. She pushed a piece of paper across the table. It was an internal TLC payment agreement. But what he didn't know, she went on, was that I had retained an email chain from a producer who forwarded it to me directly when we were still negotiating season renewals. The courtroom hung on her words as she unfolded the paper. Every wife was supposed to be getting her own payments, individual deposits paid through a normal procedure, but Kody disrupted that. He instructed the network to send all the money to one single LLC Brown Media Group established in Robyn's name. She paused to let that sink in. He explained to us that it was because it was for convenience, but it was never convenience. It was about funneling control. The judge narrowed his eyes. So you're saying the entire family's income was redirected without consent? I'm saying, Christine replied. We didn't even know the checks were coming. And when they did, Kody would decide who earned what. And somehow Robyn always earned more. She opened another envelope. There was a letter from the network's accounting department inside a receipt for $1 payment in March. It was marked as a seasonal performance bonus. We never got a bonus, Christine said. We were told that the show didn't do well, that we were lucky to have been renewed. But that money, almost $K, was put into a different checking account in the name Flagstaff Legacy Creatives, LLC. And there it was again, yet another new company, another strange name, another paper trail that left off in Robyn's signature. That LLC had only one signer authorized, Christine said, holding up the last page of the section. The courtroom buzzed, and this time the judge let it. Christine scanned down, then back up. Later in the month, Robyn had hired a private media coach, remodeled her master bathroom, and made a deposit on a second home in Arizona. Her hand rested on the next tab. We weren't broke. We were being starved. Then she shut the section softly, as if in tearing something holy, she continued. The lying stopped being about money. They became all about the show itself. The second tab said, the script flip. And in that instant, the courtroom didn't just lean forward. They prepared for another betrayal. Undefined Beccas, Christine wasn't just revealing theft of deaths. She was tearing down a reality television empire from within. Christine's fingers hovered over the binder as if she was holding some radioactive thing, something that had seared her for years before she ever had the guts to display it in public. The writing on the tab, the script flip, was underlined in black ink, nearly angry and timber. She didn't say anything right away. The courtroom had shifted from tension to hush. Nobody rustled. Nobody whispered. Even the bailiff stopped moving. Christine paused and started. The show became a mask. She spoke even, but it was a confessional echo. COVID had shut down production, but we continued to film home cameras, voice memos, producers urging us to make it dramatic, and Kody leaned in. But what audiences didn't see, what the world never knew, was that as we were recording those fights about distancing, loyalty, and talking, a very different script was being written backstage. She opened the binder showing a timeline marked up in various colors, blue for shoot days, red for money transfers. This, she explained, is every day we recorded a significant family episode, and beside each is a withdrawal, a wire transfer, or an investment, most of them tagged as production expenses. She turned a page. The TH of March, we shot the notorious driveway argument. The same evening, $1 deposit was transferred to a jewelry firm. Robyn covertly started half a year ago. The judge blinked. Are you suggesting family arguments were staged in order to cover financial redistribution? No, Christine replied. I'm saying Kody used our painting as a distraction. While Robyn built a brand, she held up a flyer, never aired on the show. It advertised a private line of jewelry, sister stone, listing Robyn as creative director and Kody as managing partner. The brand was registered in late, Christine explained, but the launch happened in silence. No social posts, no press releases, just insider orders and loyalists. They leveraged the family's face to finance a private future. Robyn leaned in now, visibly shaking. Kody finally moved, elbows on knees as if to jump up, but the judge extended a staying hand. Let her continue, he commanded. Christine's next page displayed a screenshot of a shared family calendar. That is where I uncovered the last clue, she said. Kody designated certain days as production recovery days. I figured it was for rest, but it was for movement. Money was being withdrawn, redirected, hidden. She uncovered a printout of the Brown Media Group ledger. Entries, each labeled transport and consulting for more than $, all funneled through Robyn's Creative LLC. While we were crying on camera, they shuffled money like a shell game, Christine said, her voice finally cracking. While defending motherhood, they were investing in studio gear. While Jezebel was waiting for surgery, Robyn was appointed a brand manager. The courtroom sat frozen. Didn't bust up the family, Christine breathed. It exposed it. And when she turned to the next tab, written in bold black marker, the last withdrawal, the room seemed to shrink because everyone knew the next year was the breakdown. But no one realized how far the fiscal betrayal extended. Christine did. And she had every single receipt. Christine's hands no longer shook. As she opened the tab marked, the last withdrawal, the room collectively held its breath. Not that they hoped for more, but because subconsciously they knew this was where it all broke. This was where the unspoken, silent betrayals at last seeped into the light of day. No longer masked as family tactics or spiritual cohesiveness. This, Christine stated with accuracy, was the year Kody informed me that loyalty comes at a cost, and when I did not pay it, he disfellowshipped me, not emotionally, financially. She unfolded a copy of the Brown Media Group's last operating ledger for Q. This is the last quarter that I was a listed payee, she went on. After that, my name was cut from all revenue sources. The judge shifted forward. Without legal separation or contract dissolution, Christine nodded. Without notice, without explanation, she indicated the entries in the ledger. Robyn's disbursement for that quarter was $, Kody's was over $, Christine's was $, hold for restructuring. He assured me we were reducing staff, she stated. But a few days later, Robyn bought a 5-bedroom home just outside of Scottsdale, all cash. She produced the escrow report, the purchase agreement, and the date of closing 3 days after Christine's disbursement had been put on hold. Whereupon I realized I was no longer a wife, she said in a low voice. I was an unpaid actress in a play I did not believe in anymore. Robyn trembled with the urge to weep, but no tears followed. Kody shifted uneasily, his face flushing, jaw clenching. Then came the final indignity. Christine went on, producing a folded sheet of paper, crisp and clinical. Here is what he sent me. She passed it to the judge. A draft of a new family financial policy on Brown Media Group stationery reading that wives in non-legally married relationships may not access primary accounts unless contributing direct production value. The room gasped now. Christine did not blink. He diminished my worth to production value. And since I wasn't legally married to him like Robyn, I was excluded from all matters of finance, even those involving my children. She pushed one last paper across the table, a tuition bill for her daughter. It came back with a note. Request denied. Fay consult, primary guardian. The guardian's name listed Robyn Brown. The judge raised an eyebrow. Were you informed that Robyn had been given this authority? Christine shook her head. Not until this invoice came back. He never informed me. He had delegated her financial power over my child without my approval. For an instant, even the judge seemed taken aback. Christine closed the tab slowly. That was the final withdrawal, not from a bank, from my dignity. She sat down, her binder half exhausted, but her silence louder than ever before. The following tab read simply, the escape clause. And now the courtroom was not only hearing, it was mourning alongside her. The rustle of the binder's next tab being opened sounded more substantial than paper had any business sounding. Marked in crisp capital letters. The escape clause. It bore the burden of something not only monetary, but definitive. Christine stood once more, but her voice now had changed from testimony to declaration. She declared, I wasn't merely attempting to escape a man. I was attempting to escape a system. Her hands moved steadily, purposefully, revealing a notarized copy of a Brown family financial agreement that Kody had shared with the remaining wives early in March. He referred to it as a restructuring for legal protection. But it was a trap, she said. It stipulated that any wife who wanted to leave the family would have to relinquish all claims to shared property, savings, and royalties, except with the legal spouse's approval. She paused. And that legal spouse was Robyn. A wave of incredulity ran through the courtroom. Christine allowed the words to hang there. There were clauses in legalese, words like deferred equity and post-separation stipends. But this is what it did mean. If I departed, I received zero. Not a single dollar. Not a penny for the years I cooked, brought up children, shot, and enabled the show. Zero for the homes I contributed toward paying off. Zero for the companies I helped establish. She pushed the completed agreement across the judge's desk. Except there was one clause, she continued, turning to the last page. Her voice now honed to a cutting edge. Clause C. She read should a party leaving offer documented evidence of fraud or misrepresentation of family money. Standard forfeiture will be withheld pending investigation. And with that, Christine put a USB drive on the desk. This contains every tax return, business registration, real estate transfer, and internal email from the past 7 years. Cross-referenced, time-stamped, and verified by an independent auditor. She paused. And I'm invoking Clause C. Kody's face drained of color. Robyn whispered something to her attorney, who did not respond. Christine wasn't done. That clause was supposed to scare us, she said. But it gave me the only way out that did not cost me my truth. She faced the courtroom now, not merely the judge, but the observers watching the family standing behind her, the country outside the courthouse walls waiting. I didn't come here seeking revenge. I came here seeking recognition of what was stolen, of what was concealed, of what we were told we didn't deserve. And she turned to the next page, her hand shaking, not in fear, but with relief. Aftermath. And when she picked it up, the burden of escape gave way to something else. Responsibility. Because now Christine wasn't only escaping. She was ensuring that nobody else had to remain silent once more. There was no venom remaining in Christine's tone when she flipped the tab with the heading Aftermath. No bitterness, no bite. What was left was colder, more deadly. It was determination. I departed Flagstaff in January of, she whispered, with a suitcase, 2 children, and a copy of every document I'd hidden for years. She gazed out across the courtroom, then carefully set down a stack of papers marked IRS communication log. 3 weeks after requesting independent financial review, the IRS started their investigation into the Brown family trust. The silence was savage. Christine wasn't accusing now. She was reporting, I was informed by the agents that the flag was up in. They observed discrepancies between what Brown Media Group reported and what TLC had reported. She poked the first page. They only reported dollar in income. In TLC had more than dollar, comma. The room gasped. Christine didn't even flinch. They wanted to know how the discrepancy was explained. She went on. I provided them with this. She pushed a second sheet toward him. A PDF of a cash flow breakdown of deposits into 5 separate LLCs, 3 in his name, 2 in hers. They said the shell companies weren't against the law, but the hiding was. She breathed slowly in. That is when I knew I wasn't just a mom or an ex-wife anymore. I was a whistleblower. The courtroom went silent. Kody's fists curled. Robyn lowered her eyes. Christine gazed back at the judge. The IRS started asking questions about asset ownership, properties in Robyn's name that were categorized as family retreats, jewelry hoards asserted as business inventory, and production reimbursements that never found their way to anyone else but her. She raised a photograph. This is Robyn attending an exclusive warehouse auction. She spent $1 in cash on premium merchandise in February. That same month, my daughter's school lunch account was declined. Her voice broke only then. We weren't poor, she whispered. We were excluded. She sat down gradually and turned to the next page. A scanned email from Kody to a show producer. We need to lean into Christine's emotional storyline. Her financial struggle will make great television. The courtroom did not stir. They could not. He didn't just hide money, Christine said. He sold my pain, then cashed the check in Robyn's name. The judge finally broke the silence. And you're asking the court to freeze the accounts, reopen the contracts, and return what was stolen, not just from me, but from every child who thought this was a real family. She turned to the final tab, justice pending. And now, for the first time, even Kody looked afraid because Christine wasn't testifying anymore. She was sentencing. Christine's hand rested on the final tab of the binder, like it was both a shield and a sword, her proof and her last act of war, labeled justice pending. This wasn't about exposure anymore. It was about the consequences of what had already been unearthed. As of February, she started, her voice now resolute with determination. The IRS sent official notices to both Brown Media Group and Flagstaff Legacy Creative S requesting the explanation of unreported assets and misrepresented distributions. She placed the notice flat on the table. They're no longer inquiring. They're bringing charges. Kody gazed at the paper as if it were in an unknown language, his hands trembling now, not with outrage, but with the dawning awareness that the empire he created upon selective reality had fallen apart under him. Their probe, Christine went on, found more than $1 million in earnings discrepancies across 6 business entities, assets Robyn jointly managed. She hesitated, then picked up a second document, a sworn affidavit by a former bookkeeper. This witness attests that Robyn was fully aware of the transfers and in other instances personally ordered them. Robyn's head was raised now, her lips open, eyes wide with confusion and defiance, as if she still thought this whole thing was a mistake. But the IRS is not the only one, Christine went on. TLC's legal staff initiated an internal investigation in March. That paper followed a network memo asserting that the network had been deceived regarding the fiscal structure and family allocation strategy revealed on Chimera. Translation, Christine said simply, they were lied to on the record, and now they're looking at suspending all syndication royalties until legal clarification is achieved. The courtroom responded as if a hurricane had swept through the walls. Kody finally stood, only for the judge to order him to remain silent. Christine didn't flinch. For over a decade, I played my role. I took the pay cut. I accepted the silences. I stood by while my daughters did without, while Robyn had private medical attention, private vacations, and financial independence in secret on tax returns that I was never permitted to see. She flipped one final page, a letter to her written just 1 month ago. It was from a past TLC producer. You never intended to know the bottom line. It said, Kody instructed us not to give breakdowns to the wives, just family figures. Sorry, Christine placed the letter on the table like a wreath on a coffin. I am not here to shame anyone, she stated, her eyes fixed on the judge. I am here because a legal family was transformed into a financial pecking order, because love was utilized as leverage, and because trust was pilfered one signature at a time. She snapped the binder shut, not with force, but with the quiet of something complete. Click, I rest my case. The room was frozen. The judge leaned back. The lawyers wrote furiously, and Robyn grasped for Kody's hand, but he did not take it. Unknown, and in the corner somewhere, Janelle breathed softly. She did it. Christine did not glance back, unknown because in front of her lay the verdict, and behind her lay the ruins of a truth no longer hidden. The court had never been louder than in silence. Christine's binder lay closed, an obelisk of secrets buried, and all that was left was the court's reply. It didn't come quickly, however. It came deliberately, with the cold razor of justice cutting through each meticulously concealed falsehood. The judge hunched forward, cleared his throat, and spoke to the room in a voice that made everyone's flesh crawl. What we've heard today is not simply a domestic dispute, he said. It is a pattern of systemic financial control masked by the illusion of plural unity. Then came the moment everyone had been bracing for. Effective immediately, the judge declared, all active accounts held in the names of Brown Media Group, Flagstaff Legacy Creatives, Desert Blue Legacy, and the specified personal accounts of Kody and Robyn Brown are frozen pending a complete forensic audit. Gasps circulated through the courtroom. Robyn visibly shrank back. Kody paled, his eyes glancing frantically toward his attorney, who simply looked down as if assuming this result all along. Add to that, the judge went on. The court finds prima facie evidence of intentional financial misrepresentation and breach of fiduciary duty. Christine didn't smile. She didn't gloat. She just dropped her eyes, her fingers locked together, rooted not in revenge, but in vindication. There will be a hearing within the month to assess the scope of financial damages, the judge continued. Christine Brown, your request to reopen the financial distribution agreement is granted. You will be permitted to pursue retroactive compensation based on your evidence. The term compensation resonated like a drumbeat of long-delayed justice. But Christine wasn't for herself. Her gaze moved toward her children in the balcony, toward Janelle, who struggled to contain tears. Even Meri, reserved and troubled, nodded faintly in approval. This was not about divorce anymore. It was about fixing. And then the final blow came from the judge. TLC is ordered to bring forth their internal communications for structuring contracts with the Brown family. This court will decide whether or not the network was an active participant in deceiving participants as to their rightful compensation. Robyn let out an audible gasp. Kody whispered, "This can't be happening." But it was. Christine had broken into the vault, and now it was all coming out. On the record in the open under oath, the courtroom was adjourned under the weight of a dynasty crumbling, not legally, but on the embers of trust. When the room emptied out, reporters scrambled out in the streets. Microphones stood waiting at the steps. Cameras rolled, but Christine didn't stop to talk to any of them. She strode down the hallway like a soldier emerging from combat, not victorious, but transformed. Behind her, the courtroom was not merely a forum in which people told stories. It was now a cemetery for all the falsehoods veneered with love. Before her was only one book remaining, the verdict, the section where the damage would be assessed. And for the first time, corrected, Christine emerged from the courthouse not as a reality television wife, Not as the woman behind the muted smiles or soft-spoken sacrifices, but as a woman who had defied the monolith of a painstakingly constructed empire and made it defend its transgressions. The outside air was thick with cameras, questions, and flashbulbs. But none of it mattered, because deep within that courtroom, something irreparable had occurred. Truth had shouted louder than the story, and for the first time in more than a decade, Kody Brown had no script to hide behind. The legal case would drag on for months. Independent auditors dug through every transaction. LLC after LLC opened like nesting dolls filled with deceit. Real estate assets were confiscated, balance sheets revised. TLC made a public formal statement admitting deep concern regarding the miscommunication between their production team and Brown family, but initiating an internal ethics investigation. But the toughest blow, Robyn was formally subpoenaed for personal testimony about her involvement in the secret transfer of more than $1 million in production royalties. Her lawyer tried to make the case for spousal protection, but Christine's binder, tabbed, sourced, and time-stamped, made silence no longer a refuge. Kody, who once had the loudest voice in any room, now sat behind closed doors, instructed not to speak out. His once authoritative presence is now relegated to footnotes in legal documents, each one more incriminating than the last. The guy who had armed himself with loyalty and camouflaged exclusion as spiritual guidance was now trapped by the same domination he once employed to insulate himself. And Christine didn't wait for the ultimate court decision to start her life anew. She returned to Utah, launched her own wellness company, open, women-founded, and legally sound. She published a memoir, not a tell-all but a healing cry, explaining what it was to untangle a legacy of submission in the interest of self-worth. In days, it was on bestseller lists. Women everywhere heard their own voices through hers. At the same time, Janelle followed Christine into advocacy, founding a foundation that offered legal representation to women in economically coercive family settings. Meri, more hesitant to come forward, finally sent a message, one that was plain but earth-shaking. I believe you, the judge's final decision took weeks. Christine was given $1 in back pay. The Brown family trust was broken. Kody had to take financial ethics classes as part of the agreement, his first required accountability in more than a decade. Robyn's accounts were opened, exposing lavish spending $1 in wardrobe makeovers, $1 on renovations to her home, and a private retreat in Sedona as spiritual restoration. But for Christine, the cash was never the issue. The courtroom hadn't merely ruled in her favor. It had confirmed a decade of being instructed that she was dramatic, unfaithful, unreasonable. And now the world was aware of the truth. She wasn't bitter. She was correct, standing outside the courthouse with wind blowing through her hair. News reporters shouting her name. Christine turned around once at the building where her silence had been construed to be a battle cry, and having nothing further to conceal, she softly muttered to herself, "I was never the problem. I was just the one who finally said no." And that was the real verdict. The kingdom Kody built on secrets was gone. The wives he previously silenced have now discovered their voice. And the woman he underestimated had become the one thing he never saw coming free.